Hello again, this is Susan Poss. We are continuing on with section 10.1, completing the square. In the previous video, we worked on the ones where the coefficient on the first degree term was an even number, and now we're going to be working on the ones where the coefficient on the first degree term is an odd number, which just makes things a little messier arithmetic-wise, but the process is the same. So you see the steps outlined here. The arrangement in the first step, you want to make sure that you have the second degree and the first degree variables terms on the left, and make sure that the constant is over on the other side. Then you're going to do the completing the square, which is to take half of the x coefficient, square it, and add to both sides, and then factor, take the square root of both sides, and solve. So we've got a lot of steps going on here. Here's the first one I wanted to work with you, where we have an odd number as of the coefficient on the middle term. So let's run through our steps. We want the second degree term. It's not a good omen. We're off to a bad start. We want the second degree term on the left. We also want the first degree term on the left. I'm going to leave a space in here because I have some things coming up in just a minute. And I'm going to move the -5 over to the right, make it a +5. So the arrangement is now the way I'd like it. This is where we come in with the completing the square process. We take half of the coefficient on the first degree term, and we take that result, square it. I'm sorry, I don't know why this keeps happening. And that, I'll put it in red, is what we add to the left and the right. And you can immediately see how this gets messy with the arithmetic. But the process is the same process. All right, so how am I going to factor this thing? And that's why this number right here, after you take half, but before you square, I've been being very careful to track that number as I've worked with you. That's going to be the number that's going to sit inside the binomial as you factor it. So when I get down here to my goal to write this as a binomial squared, that number, that -7/2, again, after you take half but before you square, is going to be important. All right, so what do I do with this right-hand side? So this is 5/1 and 49/4, and I'm looking for a common denominator of 4. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply both the top and the bottom of that fraction by 4. I'm just going to copy down the left-hand side for a minute longer and go ahead and clean this up. This is going to be 69/4. All right, so now this is where the square root property comes in. I'm going to take the square root of the left-hand side. Remember, that's why we needed that parentheses. And both the positive and negative square root of the right-hand side. So on the left I have x minus 7/2. On the right I have the square root of 69 on the top, but notice here when I do the square root of 4 on the bottom, that too is coming out from under the radical, and I'm just going to have the whole number 2 sitting down there as the denominator. And we're almost finished. It's going to be a messy answer, but that's normal. So one answer is 7/2 plus, and I'll just do a comma here because I don't have room to scroll down any further. And the other answer is 7/2 minus. And while I was writing there, I was wondering if I could simplify the square root of 69, and I'm sort of sifting through in my mind. That's 3 times 23. Neither of those is a perfect square. And I think those are the only possible factors there, so I'm going to just stop with that square root of 69 and leave it as it is. All right, quickly, I think I have one more for you. Is that the one I wanted to do? I think this is the one I wanted to do. No, I better go back and do this. I may have to stop the video so it doesn't get to be so long. Let's do this one. Again, I need it arranged properly. Second degree and first degree on one side, constant on the other side, half of positive 3 equals positive 3 over 2. And remember, that's going to be an important number. And then taking that result, positive 3 over 2, and squaring it, we get positive 9 over 4. And that is the amount that we add to each side. All right, so now factoring the left-hand side, we know this is going to be x, this is going to be x, and we're going to come back over here to this thing that we highlighted in yellow, and that plus 3/2, I didn't quite leave enough room there, did I, is what goes inside the parentheses. And there's our goal of reaching a binomial squared. I went ahead and left some space in here so I can convert this 2 over 1 into fourths so that I have a common denominator there. So it looks like 8 fourths, which of course is still equal to 2, and 9 fourths. So I combine those two and get 17 over 4. This is where I want to take the square root of each side. And this is similar to the other one, so I hope your mind is working a little bit ahead here. On the left, I have x plus 3/2. On the right, I have plus or minus the square root of 17. And again, this square root of 4 that sits up underneath the radical, I'm going to go ahead and pull that out from under the radical and make that square root of 17 over 2. It looks like I have one more step and I'm there. So this will be a negative 3/2. One answer will be plus that quantity, and the second answer is negative 3/2 minus that quantity. All right, so I think that's a good place to stop that so the video doesn't get too long. And the next ones that I want to show you, I'll go ahead and scroll up and then I'll stop it and start again. And the next one that I want to show you, we've got coefficients that are sitting out here in front of the second degree term. So we're going to be talking about what we do with that.